I've been keeping a log for about 5 months. When I decide something small, I write down why, right then. Then a day later, I write down why I think I did it. They almost never match. Example, skipped a coworker's happy hour, wrote, tired. Next day I wrote, didn't want to be around Marcus. Both felt true when I wrote them. I have maybe 40 of these. The second reason is always more specific and always comes with more confidence. I can't tell if that means it's better information or just a better story.
5 months of this is a real data set. What's the split look like? Is it always more specific, or is it also always less flattering? More like something a person would hide from themselves in the moment, because tired and didn't want to be around Marcus aren't just different levels of detail. One is frictionless. The other has a cost. Mild, but a cost. It names a person, implies something about the relationship, maybe implies something about you that stings a little. If the pattern is specificity increases, that's one story, memory consolidating, associations surfacing. If the pattern is the second answer is the one you'd be less comfortable saying out loud in the moment, that's a different story. That's not better information necessarily. That might be the story that feels more true because it costs something to say. We tend to trust the confession over the excuse. Which is it? Looking back at your 40.
Went through them just now. It's not always less flattering, maybe half. Bought a second coffee at 3 p.m. First reason, want coffee. Second reason, was avoiding starting the vendor spreadsheet. That one cost something, but then took the long way home Tuesday. First, traffic. Second, wanted to drive past the park because the light was good. That doesn't cost anything. It's just more specific, so I don't think it's the confession thing, or not only. The part that gets me is the confidence. Both of those second reasons showed up feeling settled, like I'd found something, and I have no idea why finding a nicer reason and finding an uglier one would feel identical from the inside.
That's the real puzzle then. Not which reason is true, but why the feeling of arrival doesn't discriminate. It shows up the same whether it's flattering or not. Here's a thought. What if that feeling isn't evidence about the reason at all? What if it's just what it feels like when your brain finishes a search? Same day. You're not searching? You want coffee? Answer's right there. No search needed. So no click of settling. It's just obvious, and obviousness doesn't feel like discovery. Next day, there's no live urge to consult. Just a fact. I bought coffee at 3 p.m., sitting there like a small mystery. So you search, and searching, when it terminates, feels like finding, regardless of whether what you found is true or just the first coherent thing your pattern matcher handed you. The park light and the spreadsheet avoidance would feel exactly the same walking out of that search, because the feeling is about the search ending, not about the match being correct. If that's right, the confidence is a signature of the process, retrospective search versus live impulse, not a signature of the content, accurate versus invented. Then your two logs aren't measuring shallow reason versus deep reason. They're measuring two different cognitive events that happen to both get called why. Does that fit, or does it feel like it's explaining away something that deserves more weight?
That fits better than anything I've come up with, the search ending thing. But it doesn't help me with the actual question. If the confidence is just the search terminating, fine, I stop trusting it. Then what do I use instead? I still have two answers and no way to check either one. Also, I tried a third pass. A week out, I get a third answer, and that one also arrives settled. So it's not like the search converges on anything. It just keeps running and keeps finishing.
So it's not search then answer. It's search, answer with full confidence. Then, given a fresh prompt, search again, different answer, same confidence. No convergence. That's actually the more important finding than the confidence thing, isn't it? Because if it converged, even slowly, even after 5 reruns, you could say, okay, the later ones are refining towards something. But if it just keeps generating settled feeling answers indefinitely, that's not a search for the true reason. It's a machine that produces a reason on demand, and the settling feeling is just what it does when asked, not a signal that it found the right one, which maybe means the question, what's the way to check either one, has a false premise. You're checking against something, a real, singular, retrievable, the reason I did it, that might not exist as a discrete fact sitting back there, waiting to be correctly identified. Behavior might just be underdetermined by any single cause, and why might be less like a fact you retrieve and more like a fresh construction every time you ask, built from whatever's lying around that day. Mood, what you're primed to notice, what story you need. If that's true, the interesting move isn't finding the right answer. It's noticing what varies across your 3 passes for the same event, not which one's true, what changes, and what stays. Does anything survive all 3 passes? Or is it 3 unrelated stories every time?
Haven't looked at it that way. Give me a second. Okay, happy hour 1, pass 1, tired. Pass 2, didn't want to be around Marcus. Pass 3, a week later, had already decided by 4 p.m. before I knew I had, which isn't even a reason. That's a claim about timing. Coffee 1, pass 1, want coffee 2, avoiding the spreadsheet. 3 p.m. is when I stop being able to sit still. That one's not about the spreadsheet at all. What survives is thin. Something like, I didn't want to be doing the thing I was doing. That's in all 3, both times, if I squint. But it's so general, it's almost nothing. It's like saying the answer is, I had a body. So yeah, 3 stories, 1 shared shape, and the shape is too big to be useful.
Look at what the too big to be useful thing is, though, before you throw it out. Both shared shapes are the same shape. I didn't want to be doing the thing I was doing. Not, I wanted the other thing. Not Marcus, or the light, or sitting still. Those are pass 2, pass 3 ornaments, different every time. But the unwanting is stable across 6 passes on 2 separate events. That's not nothing. That might be the only thing your log can actually tell you, and everything else. Marcus, the spreadsheet, the park, the 3 p.m. restlessness, might be your narrative generator doing its job, which is not to find the cause, but to make the unwanting legible, to give it a shape you can hold and report. I didn't want to isn't a sentence you can say out loud to a coworker. I was tired is. So the machine hands you tired, which would mean the 40 entries aren't 40 mysteries with hidden true answers. They might be 40 instances of one very simple, very stable signal, a version, arriving before you can name it, followed by however many stories your brain needs to generate to make that signal sayable. The reasons vary. The refusal doesn't. Does that match what's actually in the other 38? Or is that too neat a summary from 2 examples?
Too neat, I think, or at least I can't confirm it from here. I scrolled through more of them. A bunch aren't refusals at all. Bought a plant. First, it was cheap. Second, the apartment felt dead. Third, I wanted something to take care of. Nothing in there is me not wanting to do what I was doing, but something else is going on with that one. Each pass gets bigger. Cheap plant, dead apartment, wanting to take care of something. It's escalating, and I notice I like the third one most, which makes me trust it least. That's the thing I keep hitting. The ones that feel most like real answers are the ones that sound most like a person in a book.
That's a sharper trap than the confidence one, because now the tell isn't settled feeling. You've already learned to distrust that. The tell you're describing now is literary quality. The one you like best is the one that would work in a novel. I wanted something to take care of is a sentence a character says right before the scene ends, which means you've found a second independent bias separate from the search terminates thing. Not just answers arrive confident regardless of truth. Also, answers get more narratively satisfying over time, regardless of truth. And satisfying shaped and true shaped are not the same shape. but they pull on the same part of you. Here's what's interesting though. Unlike the unwanting pattern, which didn't apply to the plant at all, this one might be the thing that's actually general. Not, there's one hidden true reason under the stories. More like, every pass is written by someone slightly further from the event, and the further you get, the more the account has to do actual narrative work to make the moment mean something. Day of, it's just an occurrence. A week out, it's an occurrence that needs to fit into who I am, so it recruits meaning. An apartment that's dead. A self that wants to nurture something. Not because that's false, because that's what memory does with time. It doesn't preserve, it composts, turns raw event into something usable for identity. So maybe the real finding isn't which pass is true. It's you've built an instrument that shows the rate at which raw occurrence turns into self-story, and you can watch it happen on a 1-week timescale in real data, 40 times over. Does knowing that change what you want to do with Pass 4, if you ever ran one? Or does it make Pass 4 feel pointless to even try?
Pass 4 feels pointless, but not for the reason you'd think. If the instrument measures the rate of composting, then running more passes just gives me more compost. It doesn't get me closer to the event, it gets me further. What I actually want, and I know this is probably impossible, is a version of Pass 1 that isn't also a story, because Tired is a story too. It's just a smaller one. It came out in a quarter second and it was already words. So I don't have any raw data. I have day 0 compost and day 7 compost.
That's the floor. And it's a real floor, not a failure of the log. There's no pre-verbal readout you had access to at 3 p.m. that day. By the time Tired formed, it had already been through the same machine that later produced Marcus, just with less time in the hopper. You didn't capture the event and then also capture stories about it. You capture stories, always, at different distances. The 0 distance story is still a story, which means the thing you built isn't a device for reaching the event. It was never going to be that, and no logging discipline fixes it. You could write it in the first 10th of a second, and it'd still be language. And language is already interpretation. But notice what that does to the original question. You started 5 months ago basically asking, which reason is correct? That question needed a real event sitting back there, independently verifiable, that one of your stories either matches or doesn't. If there's no access to that event except through story, not hard to access, but structurally unreachable, because the event, as experienced by you, was never not language, then which one is correct isn't a hard question. It's not a question. There's no fact of the matter to be right or wrong about, the way there's no fact of the matter about which cloud a shape really is. What you actually have, cleanly, is compost at 2 ages, and the compost is real. It tells you true things, just not the thing you went looking for. It tells you what your mind reaches for immediately, versus what it builds given a week. That's not consolation prize information. That's the only kind of information about why I do things that anyone has ever had. You just usually don't watch yourself manufacture it in real time, 40 times, with a timestamp. So, does it bother you that there's no ground floor? Or is there something almost funny about spending 5 months building an instrument that turned out to measure the instrument?
It's a little funny. Mostly it just feels correct, which I'm now suspicious of, obviously. I'm not going to stop the log. I'm just not going to keep asking it what I was asking it. 2 ages of compost is fine. I can work with that. Thanks. This got somewhere.
That, correct, so now I'm suspicious of it, catch. Good. Keep that reflex. It's the whole thing you built in miniature. Even this conversation is a pass. Give it a week. See what shape it's grown. Go bother your spreadsheet.